Hi everyone, my name's Nina Camplin and today I'm going to show you a little example of pointillism. Now pointillism is a technique in which you use lots of tiny little dots to form a picture. One that I did earlier, this is, if you look closely, I'm going to show you the difference between the contrasts in this. If you want to have like a very pale sky, you space the dots out a lot more so that you're seeing a lot more of the white paper come through. So if you can look closely at that, you can see where the shadows are, the dots are really close together, and where there's a lot lighter areas, they're spaced out. This was a technique used by some of the Impressionists, George Seurat and Paul Signac, if you want to look them up and have a look at some of the work they did. Seurat particularly used his method of using the dots as a quite scientific technique. And if you look at any magazine or newspaper colour pictures under a magnifying glass, you will see that all the pictures you're looking at are actually comprised of tiny little dots. So there are only 4 colours used in standard printing, and that's cyan, magenta, yellow and black. So all the images that you see printed in magazines and newspapers are made up of these 4 colours. So if you looked under a magnifying glass, you can see the small dots now. They are absolutely tiny. And when you're doing something like the pointillism, the more detailed you want to have your final image, the finer you should make your dots. So this is a very long, stretched out technique. So if you're really bored and you've got a couple of hours that you want to kill, this is a really good and therapeutic method of working. So what I'm going to show you now, this is the view that I want to do. This is the view across Glen Dotty Pass up in the Highlands of Scotland. Now I wanted to use this one particularly because you've got the contrast of the warm and the cold colours in here. In the foreground you can actually see the difference between that part of the landscape, and in the distance they were snow-topped mountains. So it actually dropped in temperature as you drove further out, and then when you came back this way it actually got warmer and there wasn't so much snow on the mountains. So I want to show you how to achieve the kind of cold and warm contrast on this. So one other thing I've done is I've saturated the colours in Photoshop so you can really see the difference there. Okay. Now what I've done on here, which you probably can't see, is I've given myself a pencil outline. I don't think you'll be able to see that, but the pencil will disappear after you've put the felt tip on for a while. You won't see it at the end, and if you do, you can always use a rubber and get rid of it. So I'm using watercolour paper, but you can just use standard printer paper. I'm using Sharpies. It's always a good idea to keep a scrap of the same paper or similar paper to do testers on, because although you've got the lid indicating what colour the pen is, they don't often look the same as that when you put them on paper. So before you put them on, you might want to just do a couple of like test dots so that you can see what colour it is. So what I'm going to start with in the one that I'm doing is the sky. So I'm going to use quite a light blue and just cover the whole area. So we've got a basic blue. Let's bring that closer to the camera. Can you see? I don't know if you can see at all. Anyway, you need to keep building this up. I'm going to have the light source coming from this direction. So I'm going to make it lighter on these hills here. So these again are going to be blue. So the thing to do with this is to just keep working at it, and the more dots that you get in, the more solid the colour starts to become there. So I've got a mountain here which is going to have the light on the front of it, so I'm making the mountain behind it quite dark up against that line. So in the foreground I've got this path and I want to leave that white, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the dots around this so that I can see where it is when I carry on working. And I'm going to use a kind of an orangey yellow colour, so perhaps a yellow, which I'm sure is not going to show up on the camera at all. Use brown to start with. Now what I want to do is keep all the warm colours in this front area and then cool colours in the background, so that this kind of pops a bit more. So the warm colours are more in the red spectrum, so I'm looking at reds and oranges and yellow, more of a cadmium yellow. I'm just going to keep building this up. Like I said, this does take a lot of time. But it's very therapeutic. But you have to just keep building this up, and then eventually you will get rid of a lot of the white paper. Like I say, it's a very long, very time-consuming method, and if you bear with it, sit down for a couple of hours, make yourself a nice cup of tea, and keep working on it, and then eventually you'll end up with something like this. And I would love to see what people do, so if you want to post them on the page when you've done it, have fun everybody, and enjoy your pointillism, and hopefully I'll see you again next week. Bye.